to the Bronx Journal. I'm your guest host, Sandra Garcia. New York's Hip Hop Dance Conservatory's 3-year program is the most intensive and comprehensive professional hip hop dance program of its kind in the world. Delivered by a faculty with extensive professional experience and a passion for dancer empowerment and development, the program is earning widespread respect throughout the dance community. With us now to give us insight on the conservatory is the Artistic Director, Safi Thomas, and Education Director, Yvonne Chow. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Hello, thank you.
First, I want to start off with, could you give me an overview of what is the Hip Hop Dance Conservatory, how long it's been around?
Sure, so the conservatory has been around for about 6 years now. It stemmed from a previous company and institution called Blade Dance Entertainment, which was supplying dancers for music videos, commercial work, things of that nature. And then from there, Safi, the artistic director, believed that there needed to be an even greater emphasis on the academics and on pedagogy within hip-hop dance. So then he created the conservatory, where not only were you training in the dance lab physically, but then also learning theory like dance theory and cultural and social anthropology and exercise physiology. So all these concepts that you can then bring into your dance. So this conservatory is a 3-year program, like you said, and it focuses on training one to be a professional hip-hop dancer, master teacher, and choreographer. So we're teaching people how to have a viable trajectory and a long-term trajectory within the art form.
She pretty much said that. That's been around for about 6 years.
Right.
I'd say between this and the Blade Academy, we've been around for over 20 years.
So it's 2 different academies?
Yes. Okay. You know, we came out of the academy, and that was done, you know, back in the 90s, where we were trying to figure out or wanted to create something that was pretty much just a community organization. And then from the community organization and turned into what we have today, which is about 4 different companies.
Wow, pretty amazing. What is the founding purpose and the mission of HDC?
Well, the mission is first off to provide a platform for a dancer to build themselves, to have diversity, to be highly skilled, to be a professional within their field, and to have the requisite education to really build a career surrounding the art form. A lot of hip-hop dancers, they get into it because it's fun for them, they love it, it's a hobby, but then they don't know what to do after a certain point, whether it might be they win a battle, or they did all the competitions they could within their local community, or you know, they started teaching, but there's no trajectory for them. So we provide the education necessary for them to realize that there are steps that need to be taken to get from being a performer or a dancer to being a master teacher to being a choreographer. And with that education, then our mission is to uplift the art form in its standard of pedagogy, so that there is actual curriculum, there's actual standard, there's actual teaching requisites that are necessary to pass on the information to future generations. Because right now, there's not that much standard in the arena of hip-hop dance, and so everybody's teaching, you know, what they know of it or what they understand of it, but how will the art form move forward if we don't have that kind of understanding comprehensively of the art form itself?
Right.
Yeah, because it's the, like, when she says that like, there's no standard within hip-hop dance, the issue is the way that like the commercial realm has taken the art form and has pretty much butchered it in that there's no connection to our roots. And so there's so many people who are teaching those roots, but no one has any connection to them and no one knows what those roots are. And so, you know, in a lot of studios, what you find is people just doing movement to hip hop music. So if there's hip hop music in the background and they're moving, they're calling it a hip hop class. The problem with that is that, you know, let's say I wanted to teach a ballet class, and, you know, I just come in and, you know, I throw on Mozart, and I just start moving. And I'm not doing any of the foundational elements. I am not doing any of the movement vocabulary of ballet. I cannot call that a ballet class.
Understood.
And that's what happens in relation to hip hop. Because of the fact that within the studio realm there is no standard for the art form, and they don't know, a lot of people don't know what, the foundational elements of the art are. They know nothing about popping, nothing about locking, nothing about boogaloo, breaking, or, the hip hop dance, the social dances or any of that. They know none of the history, which spans over 30, 35 years. And so they pretty much cut off any type of edification that a dancer can have, and at the same time keeps them from being able to grow and do anything professional. As
well as the art form. Hip hop can't grow if there are no roots, like you stated before. Now, I'm sure you get students from all over the nation or the world.
Yes.
How many students can you give us a percentage, come from the Bronx?
I'd say right now, our student population, I would say about 15 to 20% of them are from the Bronx.
15 to 20%.
Yeah.
Well, part of the history of hip hop, hip hop itself started in the Bronx.
Right here, yes.
So I want to just ask, how does that play a part in the hip hop class that you teach? Because I understand that it's not just hip hop dancing, it's actually a hip hop class about the history of it. So how does that play a part in that?
Well, there's a few different ways that it plays a part. The first being that, where we have a class that's called Cultural and Social Anthropology. In that, we study the art form from the other end, in that we study it as a culture. Well, how did the cultural invention of hip-hop spread the way it did? And what impacted the cultural invention called hip-hop?
Right.
So even looking at, the civil rights movement, and then moving from the civil rights movement into the Black Power movement, which is called the Black Power movement, but wasn't really a congealed movement. It was very scattered because of what happened as a result of the civil rights movement. Us losing so many of our heroes in the process, from Martin to Malcolm to all these, we lost a lot. And so now here we come into the late 60s, going into the 70s, and now we have all these things that are playing on, on our community, and these things had an impact. The dance didn't just, spur out of itself. It had an impact. So all these different things had an impact on the dance coming up.
Right. So basically, you're going back to the beginning.
Yes.
It's not just hip hop. It's how did civil rights affect it?
Yes.
How did everything, make this sort of art? And I love hip hop, and I believe that it's very important. But I want to know if there are any other forms of dance that are taught at the conservatory.
No, I mean, the Hip Hop Dance Conservatory, we strictly stay within the art form of hip hop dance because of the fact that, I mean, the form itself is very expansive. A lot of people don't know how many years it takes to really learn hip hop dance. Like they think that, after a class, like, oh, I'm a hip hop dancer, but, things like popping, like getting your pop strong so that people can see them, I mean, it takes, some time to develop that. And there are about 160 derivatives in popping, which you can explore for the rest of your life, quite honestly. Breaking, that is continuously being augmented because of the fact that people are just bringing in more and more to that art form. And each one has its specific set of movement qualities and grooves and derivatives and expression. And so it's not that it's just one expression, it's 5 expressions. And then once you're able to add, like bring, popping and boogaloo together, or bring locking, like you can bring them together, and then that creates even more and more expressions. So it's really quite limitless how you can study it.
So it becomes more like a fusion with each component.
Yeah, in the choreography, like when you bring it into choreography, you can bring all those different movements into choreography.
Or even in your freestyle, because you have so many more options now. Because now you can, maybe you're using popping in your freestyle, but then you jump in the cypher and you're like, you know what, I want to do something else. You have so many more options kinesthetically to be able to expand your movement vocabulary when you're doing more than just one element of the art.
Well, dancing is a lot about how you feel, and like you said, if you jump into a cypher or a freestyle, it's what you feel like doing at the moment. But do you ever get students that don't want to dance and just want to get the history, the background of what they like to listen to on a daily basis?
I would say that we get students that maybe have difficulties with like the cipher circle, because that's when you just have to kind of let go and do you. And for a lot of people, that's a really challenging experience, because it's vulnerable, you know, to really show yourself in a circle and just show what you have at that moment. But everybody that comes in has that desire to learn about the dance, definitely. And you know, some are more inclined towards improvisation, some are more inclined towards choreography.
Right.
But as a whole, if you're going to be a professional dancer, you have to be able to hold your ground both improvisationally and choreographically, because both of those will be presented at any point in time in your career.
Right.
Yeah.
What I do find sometimes is where we have dancers that are coming in who will be like, I just want to dance.
Right.
And the thing is, what I think a lot of people don't understand, especially in this generation, the fact that the art form, it's requisite for the art form to survive past this point.
Right.
We need to have some level of education behind that.
Right.
And there has to be some academia that's applied to that. Because without that, we're just surviving off of talent.
Okay.
And talent is just a revolving door.
Right.
And talent also has an age limit. You know, if you look at music videos, and you look at, you know, America's Best Dance Crew and all these other programs that are on today, there's an age limit.
Right.
And, you know, in ballet or even in modern dance, especially in modern dance, you know, you have dancers who are like in their 60s, 70s, 80s.
Right.
And you look at hip hop and you can't really even fathom that.
Right.
But we're getting there. I mean, you know, we have, you know, all of the people who, or a lot of the people who are already involved in, you know, I'm second generation, but a lot of the first generation cats are still here.
Right.
And they're still open to being, you know, to teaching and to spreading their knowledge and letting people know what the true history of the art is.
Right, and I'm sure there's a lot of people in our audience right now in the Bronx that are extremely interested in the Hip Hop Dance Conservatory. So if you could please give us some contact information, what you could be reached at, or anything, email, any way that they could contact HDC to get involved or enrolled at least.
Sure. So our website is hdcny.org. You can also go on our Facebook, just look us up, Hip Hop Dance Conservatory, and we have daily content on there with photos, videos, so people can get insight into what the daily life of a dancer there is like. They can also, if they want an application, email admissions@hdcny.org. And we also have a summer intensive program that's coming up for 2 months. And that's for anybody that's interested in learning hip hop dance and just want to immerse themselves for 2 months in it. That happens July and August, and they just have to email summer@hdcny.org.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. It was great information. I really appreciate your being here as a guest.